Coming up on the show, thousands of federal jobs still on hold, but we'll examine if the pause leads to rewriting how Washington works. Also, could peace in the Middle East finally have a fighting chance after decades of conflict? We're going to dig into what still stands in the way. And millions of women trusted these hair products for years. Now, Georgia's highest court is weighing in on what they were never told. We're going to uncover what this ruling could mean for a lot of women across Metro Atlanta. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to share their take on today's top stories, and we try to have just a little bit of fun as well. Let's start you off with this morning. This morning, we have aid and fuel trucks bound for Gaza. We've seen forming up and waiting at Egypt's Rafah crossing. This all comes after Israel resumed preparations to open up the main crossing as Hamas handed over more bodies of dead hostages. It's following a dispute that had threatened the fragile ceasefire in the Palestinian enclave. While diplomats debate disarmament and border control, families in Gaza are still struggling for food, fuel, and safety. To understand how this latest phase of peace efforts will be felt from a Palestinian perspective, we're going to be joined by Atlanta-based defense attorney Musa Ganaya. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. When you hear the words peace in the Middle East, what does that really mean to you? Not from a political standpoint, but from a personal standpoint.
Well, when I hear that phrase, it makes me very happy. That for years and years, and my displaced family would love the opportunity to have peace and live amongst the neighbors that they lived amongst before 1948.
Yeah, you've been watching this process very closely. Does the ceasefire and the new 20-point framework present meaningful change, or is it just a pause, I guess, in what's taking place?
Well, technically it's a pause, and indeed it's already been violated. There's allegations that Israel has already killed some 44 people that were unarmed and trying to get back to an area that they had opened up. So, I mean, a ceasefire is a lot of lip service right now until they stop killing Palestinian people and treating them with humanity and dignity. It really is just a cautious optimism.
Yeah. Talk to us about this side of the world, or this section of the world where people here in Atlanta may have never been there, really don't know. Talk to us about how that is.
Well, you know, I think a lot of people have a misnomer about the Palestinian people. There's a lot of Palestinian Christians, there's a lot of Palestinian Muslims, and there are Palestinian Jews that have lived there before 1948. I can tell you that from my visit there, it's a very tense place. The Palestinians are walled in on both the West Bank and in Gaza. They have very limited ability to work and limited ability to travel. For example, if you lived in the West Bank and your grandmother lived in Jerusalem and she were to pass away, you couldn't even get a permit to go to that funeral, even though you're less than 8 miles away.
Wow. Have you talked to any friends or relatives in that region right now? And if you have, what are they saying about this? Do they see it as a beginning of peace or just another pause in pain?
At this point, they don't care if it's peace or a pause because the killing has temporarily stopped on a mass scale. And I say that after 44 people have been killed since Israel has decided to resume its actions. Mm-hmm. So, you know, here we are now trying to see, and we have a lot of people there that are cautiously optimistic. They're happy. They're praising the president. They're doing everything they can. They're rationing food. They're rationing water. They're sending short notes to their family, letting us know here, we're okay. We're alive. We don't have food. We don't have insulin, whatever they can, because you have to understand that Israel controls all the communication that comes in and out of Gaza.
Yeah, I heard you say that they were praising the president. Or how does that part of the world see us? How does that part of the world see the United States?
I mean, I think it's very hard for them to look at them as anything but someone who has benefited the oppressor in the region, right? But they're very open to becoming an ally. And as a result, they're willing to negotiate even though it seems like every negotiation ends up being a setup, like the one in Qatar and the one that they did in Egypt and then the one that they did in Lebanon, each time Israel's taken that opportunity to assassinate the peace negotiators. So this is very fragile. It's welcome, but we are very, very concerned about how it's going to proceed.
What's still needed in your opinion?
The recognition of the humanity and the dignity of the Palestinian people. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
No matter what you say about the Palestinian people, about different groups that are in the Palestinian people, different factions, the Palestinian people are human beings. We are educated. We are in the diaspora. We are people. We are not animals. And until people treat us like human beings, just like everyone else, there's going to be conflict.
You described yourself as a Palestinian Christian. How does your faith guide you and your perspective through this long, painful conflict?
You know, it's very difficult to keep the faith, right? When you see this, and so it's a stretched faith. It's prayers. There are a lot of groups trying to get together to see if they can help the families that are over there and provide them with medical equipment. But at this point, I would say prayer, and that's by all communities, not just the Christian faith, the Jewish communities, the Muslim communities, the Christian communities, all the prayer that we can get.
Yeah. Musa and I am. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Take care. Have a good day. All right, folks, we are looking at, some sunshine. Sunshine continuing in our forecast area for today. It's going to be a nice one out there. We're looking at 80 for the high temperature tomorrow with a few more clouds moving in, mainly by the afternoon, but no precipitation coming out of those clouds at all. We'll see it again on Saturday under partly sunny skies. Then the rain comes, and notice my voice goes up a little bit. The rain comes. We're excited about getting some rain in here because we've been so dry. A new drought monitor just came out and shows that the moderate drought is starting to expand a little bit more over toward the east. And so we'll continue to watch that. In the southern portions of the state, extreme drought is expanding. And so it's something that we don't need, folks. So we need that rain to get in here. Well, our temperatures will cool down next week as well. We're looking at temperatures in the 70s Monday through Wednesday of next week. Don't go anywhere. You're watching The Take, and we'll be back right after this. All right, here's where the federal government shutdown sits again on day 16. Here we go, folks. Senate Democrats are poised once again today to again reject a stopgap spending bill that would reopen the government, insisting that they won't back away from demands that Congress take up health care benefits. The House needs a simple majority, but the Senate needs 60 votes to extend government funding, meaning a funding measure would need to garner more bipartisan support. Meanwhile, a judge halted the administration's effort to lay off roughly 4,000 federal workers during the shutdown. And the latest economic figure to be put back on the back burner, the Producer Price Index for September, has been delayed. Let's bring in NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. Alice, we know that healthcare provisions are at the center of these debates and what's going on here, but what else stands in the way of the deal?
I think the question of trust cannot be overstated here, and that goes in both directions. Both parties do not trust the other side, and particularly Democrats have been saying that they're not going to sign any kind of funding bill that does not include this extension right now of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare health subsidies to keep premiums from spiking. Republicans have said we'll take that up later, and Democrats say that they don't trust them to deal with the issue later. They want it done now. It was interesting that the Alaska Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, she put a fine point in this, saying that why would Democrats decide to go along with the Republicans right now? And she pointed out the fact that we've already seen these rescission packages where money is clawed back that Congress had already agreed to, and the Trump administration then decided it didn't want to have spent, and it took that money back. She said, why, as a Democrat, then would you make a deal right now when you know in the back of your head that, as she put it, there could be backdoor moves to change whatever is agreed to up front?
All right, now with layoffs that got blocked by a federal judge, how is the administration trying to still justify this?
Well, the administration has said that this is about efficiency, and Russell Vought, who is the White House budget director, who was named, by the way, specifically by Senator Lisa Murkowski, who I just mentioned, he's been a longtime advocate for shrinking the federal government, and Democrats are now accusing him of just kind of taking this opportunity to carry out ideas that he already had in mind in terms of efficiency, cutting out bureaucracy. And so they're saying, and President Trump has said multiple times, that because Democrats have allowed the government to remain shut down because they're not adding their votes to reopen the government, that this allows this opportunity now for the executive branch to have a lot of power and make a lot of decisions about what they want to see happen. Same thing, by the way, that Democrats were concerned about happening earlier in the year when they prevented a government shutdown because the executive branch has more expanded powers during a shutdown. Notable, though, that the federal judge who stood in the way of, who temporarily blocked these firings of federal workers during the shutdown, she said that they are not legal. And she said, in fact, that it seemed that the Trump administration was trying to use this opportunity of the government being shut down, of funding not happening, and of the regular functions of the government not taking place to assume that all bets are off. And she said, quote, that the laws don't apply to them anymore. So she certainly had a very stiff response to the efforts underway by the administration.
All right, as the shutdown moves into the third week, we're hearing more stories about federal workers looking for help to make ends meet. Talk to us about that human element real quickly.
Yeah, really important to drill down on that. There are federal workers all over the country in all different kinds of roles and in uniform, in, suit and tie, whatever it may be. And food banks are a really central point where we can see that this is starting to kind of bite, because food banks are seeing a surge in need. And there was one in particular in Alabama that I was listening to this morning. The executive director there was talking about one federal worker family in particular that came in and said they were not getting a paycheck. This had never happened to them before. They had never had to go to a food bank. They were embarrassed and they were terrified. And that really is the reality that is kind of rippling across the country now, Chesley.
All right, Alice Barr, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight. Appreciate it. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. We got much more for you coming up after the break. We'll be back right after this. All right, as we said before the break, a federal judge has hit the pause button on the Trump administration's plan to fire thousands of federal workers, calling the move potentially political and lacking due process. The order temporarily protects employees across multiple agencies, including hundreds at the Atlanta-based CDC headquarters. Joining us now to break down what the pause really means and what happens next is Emory Law Professor Deepa Das Acevedo. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Deepa, what is the legal basis for a judge stepping in to halt the massive firing, especially during a government shutdown?
Sorry, you cut out there for a second. What?
Talk to us about what does it mean for a judge to step in and halt this massive firing, especially during a federal government shutdown?
Right. Well, so what Judge Susan Ilston said in the order that she released yesterday evening is that all actions stemming from the layoffs that began on October 10th have to be paused. There can be no further process regarding them. And by tomorrow, she's required that all actual or impending rifts that are part of this this new set of layoffs have to be listed, and the government has to confirm its compliance with her order by 5 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah. Is it unusual for the courts to intervene in a workforce decision tied to political priorities?
Well, I think it's unusual to have this level of government action in an employment context related to political priorities. So yes, it's not common for courts to have to intervene, but what Judge Susan Ilston is saying, which we heard Alice talk about just a minute ago, is that this set of rifts is different. She was very careful to articulate that her order right now is different from her order that she issued in the summer during the first set of government layoffs, because this time the government's rifts and layoffs is preventing some furloughed employees from even knowing that they've been riffed. So she's trying to make a distinction between this TRO that she's issued and the one that she issued earlier this summer, which was overruled by the Supreme Court.
At what point does a firing like this, like these federal employees, cross the line from policy direction to political retaliation?
You know, that is the question that we're trying to sort through right now. I mean, the order that Ilston released yesterday notes that there is explicit reason to think, both from Russell Vought, both from the president, that these actions are politically motivated, that they are not in response to government need, and that they are in excess of government authority. So the line between employment decisions and political policy is exactly what we're trying to identify right now.
Could a case like this, or how much could a case like this shape the power or reshape the power that a president has on the federal workforce?
It's immensely important, because what we're trying to figure out is the boundaries of presidential executive authority during a shutdown, which, again, as Alice mentioned, is greater than what it is during normal times. But what the TRO from Judge Ilston is saying is that though it may be greater, that power is not absolute or without boundaries.
Do federal employees have any protections in this, like the CDC? Do they have any protections under the current law?
Well, federal employees are generally considered just cause workers, which means that there's a process. The government, their employer, has to articulate reasons for terminating them and give them notice. And none of that has been followed here. I mean, we have employees who don't even know whether they've been fired, let alone why, or have been accorded the due process that they are entitled to under federal employment law.
Ultimately, does a case like this strengthen or weaken the idea of an independent civil service from politics? Like, what would be the case here? Would it weaken or strengthen it?
We are certainly seeing the boundaries being tested with this incident and with the dispute between the employees and the government. Ultimately, that's a question for the Supreme Court.
Got it. All right, Professor Acevedo, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk about how government shutdown is impacting those receiving food assistance. Stay with us. This is The Take, and we're back right after this. Georgia families who rely on food assistance are bracing for real uncertainty. From grocery bills to infant formula, millions in our state could feel the squeeze if federal nutrition programs like SNAP and WIC don't get renewed funding pretty soon here. Here in Georgia, 1.4 million people rely on SNAP. That's roughly 1 in every 8 residents counting on benefits to help make ends meet each month. And to that end, 230,000 women and children in Georgia rely on WIC, where limited reserves could run out or run dry in just 2 to 3 weeks if the shutdown drags on. Each year, $3 billion of federal nutrition funding flows into the state, directly supporting local grocers and family dinner tables. Here now with more is Jamie Brissell, the Senior Program Officer for the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. When you hear those numbers, what does that tell you about the potential rippling effect for a prolonged shutdown here?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty extraordinary, the breadth and depth of impact. And, I'll just say, with the ongoing government shutdown, coupled with continued rise in food prices, and then the legislation via the big, beautiful bill that was passed this past summer that significantly cuts federal food and nutrition programs. So you're seeing sort of this perfect storm, if you will, that really is increasing risk of hunger for literally millions and millions of children, families, people in America. And so you referenced, I think, the impact, particularly in the state of Georgia, when you have, close to 1.4 million people that rely on SNAP, 250,000 women, infants, and children that rely on the WIC program. And so, with the changes in the SNAP program and the decreases in benefits and the significant cuts to SNAP, you're likely to see in the state of Georgia over 730,000 people with either full loss of their SNAP benefits, or certainly like some loss of their benefits. So this is a pretty profound impact across the board.
Jimmy, what are you hearing from families in particular when so much of their grocery money depends on federal stability?
Yeah, I mean, families are struggling, and there is just this incredible sense of urgency here. You have 7 million women, infants, and children in America that rely on the WIC program. 50% of all babies that are born in America are supported by WIC. You have over 42 million people that rely on the SNAP program. And, I'll say there's a lot of misperceptions out there about these programs. The fact is, for the most part, for instance, with the SNAP program, this is temporary assistance for people. These are not luxuries. These are really lifelines. SNAP's a hand up, not a handout. And these programs have profound impact on the health and well-being of kids and families, on the health and well-being of local economies. We know they shore up family stability, they decrease healthcare costs, they improve the health of kids, enabling them to stay in school and do well. And again, they support small businesses, they support farmers, and they help families stay out of poverty. So these are really powerful programs that we have in this country, and so many people are facing huge risks, increased risk in hunger and food insecurity as a consequence of decisions that have been made around cutting funding. And as you referenced, we're at risk. We have about 2 more weeks of funding for the WIC program, but real uncertainty going into the month of November. And so, if federal funding runs out, some states will be able to cover that gap for WIC. Many states won't. And we're already hearing about local WIC clinics needing to shut their doors, running out of funding, needing to put participants on wait lists, furloughing staff at local clinics, which is obviously causing havoc in their ability to operate optimally.
Yeah. If the shutdown lasts for weeks, what's at stake for families, going forward here, and what's the best advice you can give them? I got less than a minute here for you to tell me that.
Sure. Yeah. So again, my best advice is to connect with your local WIC clinics to see what's going on. There are local food banks and community-based organizations that are really important support systems, but they do not replace programs like SNAP. And so just, imploring our policymakers and our leaders to come together to avoid a situation in which programs like WIC cannot serve the families that need them. And so I think families across America, we can all agree, deserve better than the uncertainty that's been created by this political gridlock.
Jamie Bissell, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insight today. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. All right, President Trump helped get a ceasefire in the Middle East, but how long could that peace hold? We're going to discuss that coming up. Plus, we're going to get a check with the National Weather Service on our chances for rain. Boy, do we need it. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. President Trump's 20-point plan for peace in the Middle East has brought a ceasefire and release of remaining Israeli hostages, yet key steps like Hamas disarmament, Gaza's future governance, and who controls the borders are still unsolved. So now the question is, can this fragile framework for a lasting peace hold? Joining us now is Dr. Alan Fromhertz. He's a professor of Middle East and Gulf and Mediterranean history from Georgia State University. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. So from an everyday American in Georgia's watch from afar, how should this effort matter to them?
Oh, it matters a great deal. I think the stability of the world is dependent on this peace deal. The Middle East is called the Middle East for a reason, because it's at the middle of so much of the world's population and so much of the world's economy as well. Even our oil prices are dependent on what's happening in the Middle East. So, and a large population of Americans, of course, is Jewish, Muslim, or Christian as well. So that matters too.
From your perspective, how different is this Trump peace plan from past U.S. efforts in this region?
I think it is different this time because Trump is really putting himself completely into this plan. He's even at the head of the peace board that's supposed to oversee what's going on in Gaza. So he's investing quite a lot of his own reputation and the reputation of his administration into this plan. And he has gotten all the players to work together around this issue as well. So he's gotten Turkey on board, he's gotten Qatar on board, even the Saudis behind the scenes. And he has Netanyahu, which is the most important piece of all, that is the Israelis actually fully committed to this, along with the people of Palestine and Gaza.
Who ultimately stands to gain the most if Trump's plans succeed? Is it Israel, the Arab states, or the United States?
Well, I think we all gain from peace. But who gains the most? That's a very interesting question. I think probably if there is actual peace and development, the people of Gaza immediately gain the most, because they have been, as the planet says, they have suffered more than enough, and their lives have been in a state of absolute chaos, and they have been in a state of starvation as well, and infants dying is not how we should have our world today. So I think the people of Gaza have the most to gain from this, and definitely.
So far, Hamas has resisted disarmament. Do you see any realistic path where that happens without sparking another round of violence?
Well, the plan is very intelligent in a way, because it says the parts of Gaza that are already under control of the Israeli Defense Force, those will start to transition over to this new plan already. So I think the incentive will become more and more apparent that those parts of Gaza that are part of the process are benefiting more than those that are not. I do think Hamas, there needs to be some way to commit Hamas to the actual terms of this, which, as you say, include disarmament. But what Hamas is doing right now is trying to consolidate some of its power against other factions within Gaza. So there are different families that have different loyalties and alliances. It's not all of them to Hamas, and many people of Gaza are against Hamas, and so Hamas is trying to take out those rivals internally.
Doc, tell us what you would be looking for over the next couple of weeks as a true sign of peace and that it has some staying power here.
Yes, I think, as you're saying, if we're seeing Hamas on the ground, the actual people who are doing the fighting on the ground handing over their weapons, because one of the issues with Hamas is that it's deliberately decentralized, because so many of the leaders have been taken out by the Israelis. They deliberately made it difficult to say, well, this is the only leader, or these are the main leaders. They have decentralized it. So you have to have a process where Hamas as an entity as a whole, even the mid-level and lower-level people, come to the understanding that, yes, giving up our weapons and following this peace process is the only way forward for our future, for our children, for our grandchildren.
Dr. Allen from Hearst, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insight on this.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm sure we're going to have you back on as well. We'll talk more.
Oh, I'd love to. Thanks.
Right, take care. All right, folks, take a look at Midtown, our camera here, and it looks gorgeous, doesn't it? I mean, the last couple of days around here have been beautiful. I call them bonus days because temperatures have been into the 80s, well into the 80s, like yesterday, and we've been experiencing low humidity along with it. It's been great, right? But we know fall is coming. It's actually here, but we'll see those temperatures start to fall back a little bit later on next week. And so we, as always, bring in on Thursdays the experts from the National Weather Service to talk more about our forecast, what we can expect, where we're going with all this stuff. Luke Culver is with the Peachtree City office. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Right. Good morning. These warm days, how unusual?
Yeah, I mean, definitely pretty unusual because we're about 10 degrees above normal each of the past few days. Yesterday was actually tied a daily record high in Atlanta where it was 86 degrees.
86. Now with lower humidity, it doesn't feel so bad, and I guess it has been pretty comfortable on the outside. How much more of this can we expect?
Yeah, it really looks like it's going to stay warm through Saturday before our next chance of rainfall occurs when a cold front moves through. Basically Saturday night throughout the day Sunday, and then thankfully looks like cooler weather for next week.
So back to normal next week, or
Yep.
Okay, all right. So we'll take that.
Yeah, it's going to feel definitely more fall-like. High temperatures will kind of return to like that lower 70s and the overnight lows in like the upper 40s to upper 40s, low 50s.
So it's like jacket in the mornings, short sleeves.
Yeah, probably jacket in the morning, and then by the afternoon in the sun, it probably won't even need it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, in all this, we've been enjoying this beautiful weather, but really we're lacking when it comes to rain, right? We just had a new drought monitor come out, and we're still dealing with drought conditions over our area.
Yes, yep. The latest drought monitor from this morning really kind of just expanded the area of severe drought, which is a D2 on the D0 to D4 scale. And that's including a good chunk of the Atlanta metro, as we just continue to just have basically no rainfall since mid-August.
We have that extreme drought down there in the southern portions of the state. What does that actually mean for those guys?
Yeah, I mean, they all as well have just not received very much rainfall the past 2 months, basically. So, there's a lot of unfortunate watering that is going to have to go on for anyone that has flowers and things like that. But thankfully, it does look like, conditions overall with this brief shot of rain, it'll help a little bit. But overall, our longer term outlook is still just kind of continued dry weather.
Yeah. Luke, do you know how much rain we'll get with this storm that comes through on Sunday?
Yeah, it looks like up to half an inch for areas kind of northwest of Atlanta, and then for Atlanta itself, it looks like roughly a quarter of an inch or less.
Yeah, we know that typically October is a really dry and quiet month for us. September just happened to be one as well. Would it take a tropical system coming through? And I kind of cringe when I say that because I know all that comes with a tropical system, but would that be the thing that would help us out during these kind of months?
Yeah, I mean, really, like you said, it's this time of year is typically dry. So unless we get some unusual pattern where we're in, multiple days of widespread moderate to heavy rain, it would take a tropical system to kind of gain back that amount of rain deficit.
Yeah. Have you guys been under pressure? I mean, have people been calling you, talking about the wet weather and trying to make you look far, far out to let them know when it's coming in? We get that. Are you guys getting that as well?
Yeah, we've definitely been getting quite a bit of questions about, when is the next large rainfall event? And unfortunately, it does not look like there really will be one for at least the next 7 to 10 days, including the tropics, which still look quiet, though the season's obviously not over yet.
Yeah. So the season ends typically by the end of November. Realistically, how it starts to go down at that point? We've seen storms outside of the season. Any reality to that? I do know that La Nina's here. Will that help to pump it up a little bit, you think?
Yeah, so, like I said, the next 7 to 10 days, tropics-wise, look very quiet. But because of La Nina, because of the time of year, there is potential for especially things moving like north out of the Caribbean. That's typically what we could see this time of year and through the end of November. So, you just kind of can't let your guard down. You just got to keep paying attention and see what the forecast is showing.
All right, Luke, thanks so much for joining us, man. Really appreciate you guys at the Weather Service, man, holding it down for us. Really appreciate it.
Of course, have a good one.
All right, take care, Luke. All right, CNN's Maribel Aber joins us next to talk about how our money matters. Don't want to go anywhere, folks. You want to hear this. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. Nestle's new CEO drawing a line in the chocolate sand. I think that's how you would say it. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning to you, Maribel. Thousands of jobs going away. Break it down for us.
Let's break it down. Chesley, Nestle will cut about 6% of its global workforce as its new CEO pushes to accelerate the company's turnaround. Roughly 16,000 jobs will be eliminated, mostly in white-collar roles. It wasn't clear if or how many of those cuts would affect Nestle operations in Atlanta. The company reported better than expected third-quarter earnings, but continues to face pressure from U.S. tariffs and higher costs for coffee beans and cocoa. Its share value has struggled, down 40% since the peak in 2021 and 9% in the last year alone. United Airlines beat earnings expectations in the third quarter, but came up short on revenue. The carrier brought in about $100 million less than analysts anticipated. United has been actually expanding capacity while rivals have scaled back this year. Its domestic ticket sales fell just over 3%, while its loyalty program soared 9% in the same period. United has been competing with Delta to win over affluent travelers willing to pay more for seats. CEO Scott Kirby also credited complimentary Wi-Fi, updated cabins, and new lounges for the strong quarterly showing. ChatGPT will soon allow adult users to access more sexually explicit content. Maker OpenAI says it's relaxing restrictions on some erotica and other mature material. The move follows restrictions enacted in August amid concerns that chatbot could be harmful to minors or triggering for some users. CEO Sam Altman said this week it's time to, quote, treat adult users like adults. The new update will roll out in December and require age verification to access. Elon Musk's rival xAI AI allows sexual content on its Grok chatbot. Finally, the J.M. Smucker Company is suing Trader Joe's over what it calls a PB&J copycat. It claims that Trader Joe's frozen peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are too similar to Smucker's Uncrustables in design and packaging. Both brands feature a sandwich with a bite mark on the box and a product with a crustless crimped edging. Smucker's alleges that Trader Joe's is trying to leverage the fame and recognition of its Uncrustables, a brand it values around $1 billion. It wants the grocery chain to deliver the sandwiches to Smucker to be destroyed, along with an undisclosed amount of restitution. Trader Joe's hasn't yet responded to media requests for comment. Chesley, I'm going to go and make my own, okay? Maybe make yours too. What do you think?
Just don't take a picture of it and post it on social media. They'll come after you, okay?
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
It's supposed to be the best form of flattery, but, you know, when you're messing with my money, you know, I get it. Thanks a lot.
Oh, no.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All right, coming up on the show, we're going to get the latest on the hair laxer settlement, damage control. Faith Jesse is going to join us with that series coming up. Welcome back to the show. The Georgia Supreme Court has revived a woman's lawsuit against two major beauty companies over alleged health issues linked to chemical hair relaxers. Kiera Barrows claims years of use of L'Oreal and Strength of Nature products has caused her to develop uterine fibroids. A lower court dismissed her case over a statute of limitations, but Georgia Supreme Court ruled she may have filed on time since she kept buying products within the last decade. The decision lets her case proceed and could open doors for similar lawsuits. L'Oreal says that they're disappointed, but notes the ruling doesn't link its products to health issues. The company has 10 days to appeal. So how did we get here? Let's bring in 11Alive's Faith Jesse. Faith, you've been following this story very, very closely.
That's right, Chesley. Thank you so much for having me, and good morning. This is a major decision by the Georgia State Supreme Court because it really opens the door for what we're seeing thousands of these cases across the country, including hundreds right here in Georgia, where women have filed suits claiming that these relaxers, some of them have been using them since age 6, 11, all the way until their 40s, have now caused health issues, specifically uterine cancer, because a couple of studies that we followed, one out of Boston University and one cited by the National Institute of Health, two different studies here, but both of them showing that there are certain links. There are something called endocrine disruptors and chemicals known as called formaldehyde that are seen in some of these products. And after use of time from these products, these studies found that Black women as well as postmenopausal women were finding that they were more often getting uterine cancer as compared to those who had not used these products. So when the statute of limitations question comes into place, the woman here, Kiera Barrows, says, yes, I first purchased this product in 1995. That was the Strength of Nature, the L'Oreal product in 2003, but I kept repurchasing these products and I kept using these products. So that was what was at question here, that statute of limitations. The Georgia Supreme Court saying, you know what, we agree with you so far, and you can go ahead and keep suing. But I do want to point out one thing here. Mm-hmm. The state Supreme Court noted it has not decided whether the companies could win a dismissal on the theory that the health problems would only have occurred because of the units sold outside of that 10-year window, or whether the health problems being caused as a combination of products sold inside and outside of that window. So that is something that is still to be seen, but that's just kind of an overview of what we're seeing. Chesley, keep in mind, these products are used very common. If you know a Black woman in your life, they probably had a box of perm in their house at one point or the other.
Absolutely. Yeah. Faith, have doctors weighed in on this situation yet?
Absolutely. So we spoke to board certified OBGYN Dr. Madeline Sutton from Morehouse School of Medicine, and she agreed with these studies, saying that what the data is showing is that the formaldehyde linked to these, or excuse me, the formaldehyde found in these products was linked to those health issues. The formaldehyde, once again, not on the labels of these products. So a lot of women didn't realize that it was even in there. But culturally, when you're speaking about relaxers and perms, it's a beauty standard. It's something that your mom used. It's something that your grandma, your aunts, it was just very normal growing up in a Black household. And so what Dr. Sutton is saying, even in our conversation, we both said we've both used relaxers. Dr. Sutton, also an African-American woman, and she said that it's just something now that education and awareness needs to be spread out throughout the community. But this lawsuit does play a big role in that, Chesley. Did
you say the labels are on the boxes? Are there warning labels or anything on them?
There are not.
There are not.
There are not.
Okay.
So it's, some of them might have labels on it, but it's not a requirement. So until the FDA, creates this requirement or legal reasoning to put these labels on there, the companies don't have to do it right now.
Faith, speak to me about the pressure. Even if the labels were there, there's a certain amount of pressure for you to have your hair a certain kind of way, and these are the products that you use to get it. Talk to me about that mental piece of this.
Yeah, so I mean, and I could just go on a personal note because I've used relaxers really my entire life growing up, and it's I wouldn't say it's a pressure. I would just say it was just the norm to have your hair. Our hair is naturally kinky and coily, but to have it relaxed or straightened. And not only is it a beauty norm, I know for myself, it was very painful for me to comb through my hair as a child. So my mom put in a relaxer and it really loosened that curl pattern and it made it easier and less painful for me. There is no other option besides the box of perm that most of us know, or that you can get for $6 or $7 at the store. So that is why it's so normalized in our community.
Yeah. What happens next for these plaintiffs whose cases are waiting on a decision?
Yeah, so that is going to be, I mean, now that we know that this Supreme Court decision has weighed in and that they can move forward with their cases, that's what we're going to see. A lot of these women going to be going after the hair care companies, depending on which company they used. And once again, think about this, it also opens the door for not just hair relaxers, but if you've used a makeup product or you use some type of shampoo or a lotion and you feel that you have health problems, this could also open the door for lawsuits down that way.
Faith, Jesse, thank you so much for this important report. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, Chesley.
All right, for more information on the lawsuit and a push for FDA to ban formaldehyde-based relaxers, check out our damage control special. You can watch it on demand right now on 11Alive Plus. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're going to have another look at the forecast, plus my final take when we return. Well, your time to enjoy these 80s may be limited. Yep, if you look toward the end of the week, we'll see those 80s sticking around at least through Saturday. But by the time we get into next week, that's when they go away and it starts to feel like fall. Some of you have been looking for that fall-like feeling. We've been getting it in the mornings with those temperatures down into the 50s, but 80s during the afternoon. Tied a record yesterday of 86. The record today is 85. Could we hit it? Certainly we could. 81 is our forecast high. We'll see if we get there. 77 degrees on Sunday. That's when the rain comes to us, but we're looking at probably about a half an inch. We need much more, but we'll take what we can get. Behind the front that moves through, the weather will turn dry once again as we head into next week, but the temperatures will be cooler in the mid to upper 70s for highs Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. All right, before we go, my final take. We're getting closer and closer to the scariest holiday of the year. Yeah, you know, we're talking about Halloween, and you may have noticed a different colored pumpkin now sits outside the doors of your neighbor's houses. Yeah, teal colored pumpkins popping up, but it's not just to add to the color of orange and black. These teal pumpkins have meaning, folks. They represent a movement known as the Teal Pumpkin Project. It's a global initiative that promotes inclusion for kids with food allergies. The CDC says approximately 8% of children in the United States have been diagnosed with some sort of food allergy as of 2025. Now, currently, there is no cure for food allergies. So you put that pumpkin out there and it's outside your house, and that means that house will now offer non-food items like glow sticks or stickers or small toys, something like that. You can join the project if you can. It'll help prevent some of these serious illnesses that children suffer from for this holiday season, this Halloween season. So think about that, right? Teal pumpkins, you can buy them at your local store, or you can just maybe even paint the orange ones that you have, letting your neighbors know or people that come knock on your door, hey, we got some other items for kids that suffer from food allergies. Great project. And did you know a young lady in Atlanta started that back in 2013, 2014, something like that? Look at that. Atlanta, baby. That's what we do. Hey, have a great day, folks. Make it a great one. Try to encourage someone today.